It's going to be able to show us opportunities where maybe we are underutilizing the ads. All right, let's talk about the search term impression share report. Now, this is now available in both sponsored brand ads as well as sponsored product ads. So the idea of a search term impression share or impression rank is to compare what is my specific ad for a search term getting as far as ad visibility relative to all the other advertisers who are going after the same, who are getting ads shown for the same search terms. Now, the search term could be an individual, like a keyword phrase. It can also be an ASIN. You know, for instance, if an ad shows up on a competitor's product detail page, for instance. But ultimately, what this is going to tell us is it's going to be able to show us opportunities where maybe we are underutilizing the ads that we have available to us. And I'll show you how I'm going to go through that in this case study. And it's going to tell us what are some opportunities that we can amplify in order to increase our ad visibility and still do it within the performance metrics we're going for as far as profitability and as far as conversion rates. Okay, so what I did is I pulled a sponsored product search term report, and in it you can see the primary fields that I'm focused on here for each of the search terms. Now I've blanked out the information for confidentiality of this account, but I'm pulling in the search term. I'm pulling in the search term impression share. I'm pulling in the search term impression rank. I'm also looking at impressions, click-through rate, ACoS, and the conversion rate. And I'll show you how I'm going to use these together so that you get a bigger picture, or a quick picture of what action you can take. So I went ahead and created a pivot table inside of Excel. And in that pivot table, I pulled in, of course, the search term, which is also hidden, of course. I pulled in that search term impression share, that search term impression rank, the sum of the impressions for that individual search term, regardless of what match type or campaign that it was in. And then I went ahead and did calculated fields inside of pivot tables in Excel. You can actually do calculated fields for a pivot table. And I manually calculated the advertised conversion rate, the ACoS, and the click-through rate. I don't simply just use what's native inside of the pivot table because it usually calculates it incorrectly. So I went ahead and calculated that within the pivot table as its own field. And then I also took a look, I kind of did some quick math on the total sponsored product ad impressions across the marketplace, which means across all advertisers. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how many total searches by consumers are made for that search term. However, it's a pretty good chance that somebody's ad is going to get shown for it. So I think it's going to line up pretty closely to the actual number of search volume for an individual search term. In this case, it's within, I believe it's 30 days on this particular report. So it's a pretty good measure of how much demand, how much searches is showing up. Now, the challenge on that is the reason that's I comment on that is because the data is going to get skewed. If you have an ad that is shown multiple times, it may, it may actually adjust, may change that as far as like the number of impressions, because you may have one person that's searching and you've got, 50 different ads that show up, on one page. It may count at, one session for a consumer, maybe 50 ad impressions. So it's not necessarily unique individual customers that are searching. Is simply just the number of ads that are being shown to those consumers. So that's why it's kind of, it's relatively accurate to each other, but it's not a good measure of like how many people are searching for an individual term. So I just want to kind of clarify that. But what I did in this particular pivot table is each search term, we'll call, like, say this first one is search term 1 and search term 2, search term 3. There's going to be a mix of keyword phrases as well as ASINs, for instance, if the ad was shown on a product detail page. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for 3 key items here. First of all, for this particular let's say for the products that I'm looking at, I want to have there's an average conversion rate of the product of, let's say, 15%. And I'm using the advertised conversion rate on this, averaging 15%. And so what I'm looking for is a conversion rate that is above average, right? Above that 15%. Also, I'm saying like, okay, my target ACoS for this product is 30%, for instance. That might be a few points below your break even, but anyway, my target ACoS, I'm going to set it for 30% in this example. And so what I'm looking for also is those search terms that are below that target ACoS, in other words, below that break evens, which means they've got an above average conversion rate and they have an above average profitability on those ads. Now, I'm also pulling in impressions and click-through rate just to kind of have some additional information there. The other thing I'm going to score here is I'm going to look for anything where there are 3 or more, or 3 or higher, I should say, as far as the search term impression rank. So here's the idea. Here's some kind of quick thing, okay? So on this particular row, there is a search term. And in this case, it's getting 100% of the share, which means it's probably a branded search or something very unique. And it is in search term impression rank of 1, which means it is getting the most ad impressions. Now, in this case, it's getting 100% of the ad impressions. And so, yeah, it's not that hard to be in #1 spot. Let's take a look at this one down here, line 16. So search term number 16 is actually only getting 47% of the share. So what that means is that out of an estimated 859 total ad impressions across all advertisers who are advertising for this particular for a keyword or an ad that will match up to this search term, that this particular product ad, along with this particular search term, is getting about 47% of those ads being shown, which means that competitor ads are making up another 53%, presumably, and they're going to be in search rank position 2, 3, 4. So you can kind of say that they're in #1 position because they've got a majority, which means that nobody else is 47% or higher. And more than likely, you've got the next guy that's got 20%, and the third guy that's 10%, and then 5%, etc. And they go down the line as far as the rank, as far as #1 be having the most of the share, most of the ad impressions. And generally that would be a good thing. As long as it is converting and it is profitable, then the ad spend in order to maintain a search term impression rank of 1 is applicable. Now, I specifically wanted to put this together to kind of show you what are the opportunities when you look at the metrics from a search term impression share standpoint. And so what I'm looking at is those cases where, first and foremost, I have a impression rank greater than 3, which means I've got potential to move from position, 3 or higher, I should say. So I have a potential to moving up from the third advertiser showing up as far as ads to the second most prolific or the most shown advertiser, or even the first most shown advertiser. Now you see on some of these, there's some really low numbers here, really high numbers as far as rank goes, which means there's plenty of opportunity in order to show up higher. But let's say, for example, I'm in position 4 on this particular one. That says that, okay, I've got the potential to go up to rank 3, rank 2, or rank 1. Right? So I've got some growth opportunity here. However, I want to check 2 other factors to make sure, does it make sense for me to put my foot on the accelerator and spend more money, or is it going to be a waste of my money? So I'm looking at 2 other things. One is, do I have an above average conversion rate? Now, this is a little bit subjective because ultimately what you're looking at is I could have a low conversion rate and still be profitable with a low ACoS, and therefore I could throw more money at it and still stay under my target ACoS. So I acknowledge that. However, if I'm going to spend money on a term or an ad, I want to make sure it's got a decent conversion rate, and decent, I'm saying above average, so that when it does convert, I'm actually making money. I'm not simply just throwing money and just kind of breaking even. That's not my goal. So I'm looking at the average conversion rate for each term is above average, and I'm also looking to see what are those search terms that are currently below ACoS against my target, right? Below my target ACoS, and therefore there's some more room for me to throw some more money at and potentially increase my rank higher. Now, if we take a look at this one here, as far as row number 5, as far as search term number 5, I have an above average conversion rate. I have a better than target ACOS. However, I'm already in position number one, so I don't need to put the gas on anymore. I'm already being shown the most I can, right? I'm already being shown more, I should say, than competitors. However, what I've done is the bright green highlights are showing where all three of these line up, where I have an impression rank that is 3 or higher. I have a conversion rate that's above average for this particular product, and then I have a ACOS that is currently below my target ACOS, which means I could potentially go up the ranks as far as my ad showing for this particular search term by spending some more money or being more aggressive with my ads and try to bring those up so they're more on par. The fact that I'm going after terms that have an above average conversion rate probably means it's a good investment for me to be spending money in order to kind of put the gas pedal on there and to rank higher. I do not need to rank number one for every single one of these. Only the ones that are going to give me a positive ROI, that have room for me to grow from a profitability standpoint, as in ACOS hasn't reached target, hasn't reached break even, and the average conversion rate is above average. So in these examples here, where all three criteria show up, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at these individual search terms, and I'm going to say, okay, how can I be more aggressive in my ads? Hopefully that helps, and good luck with it.